Hey everybody, John Peterson here, and today I want to talk to you a little bit about vision or creative vision. I just got back from leading a workshop in the Eastern Sierras where we were photographing the fall color. It was an amazing time. We had a great group. It was an amazing time up in the mountains. Beautiful forests, streams, high alpine lakes. It was just a fantastic environment to work on many different photographic skills. One of the skills that I really got people thinking about when we were out traveling around was their vision and looking beyond just the obvious subjects. We roll into these beautiful locations and there's maybe an iconic feature like a waterfall or an arch, beautiful sunrise, beautiful sunset. Those are all great and wonderful to photograph. But let me tell you, I think as I've progressed and matured along this photographic line, I find so much more interest beyond the icons. One of the ways I have found that and matured in my vision in what I see around me is I look down. I look at my environment right around me. Yes, the icon may be off there in the distance, but guess what? I bet there is something really close by at your feet that could make a worthy photograph. So we spent some time in the forest doing that. There were beautiful aspen trees with yellow leaves, and the forest shots were just phenomenal. But down on the forest floor themselves, there were pine cones, fallen leaves, granite rocks, pine needles, all these things to create intimate nature photographs. One of the other reasons about, photographing these icons, right, we're looking out over many, many miles. Oftentimes we can't noticeably change the perspective or the angle to the icon because there's kind of one spot to shoot it. We obviously don't control the light, other than we can control the time of day we appear there and take whatever light is given to us. But when we shoot smaller, more intimate scenes, we have more control over the overall composition, the lighting, the angle, the height of the camera, all of these other variables that really lets my inner artist come out to create a composition. So I end up creating a photograph instead of just taking a photograph. And there's a big distinction between those two. And some of these shots may not be the most popular or the most liked or the best sellers, but for me, they're the most rewarding artistically. And that's why I keep doing this, is to feed my inner artist. And so it's these kinds of shots that really make me energized about this craft of photography. So let's jump in real quick. I'll just show you a couple of really quick examples about what I mean when I say look down. Adjust your vision, look for the small things, create a composition, don't just make one. All right, let's jump into a couple of images here to show this example of what I mean by looking down. I pulled all of these images from the Eastern Sierras workshop I just got back from, and I've only had a brief moment to process images before I shared them with you here in this video. So here we are, and we pulled up to this stream and set everybody free. And of course, the first thing that grabs your attention is the beautiful color in the trees and the tree trunks and the water. I mean, this is just a nice, pretty, pleasing photograph, and I like it a lot. But the thing that doesn't work for me as an artist, or the thing that's not as rewarding for me as an artist, is that this didn't take a lot of skill to create. The vision required to see this scene was pretty easy. I just looked, there were beautiful trees, there was rocks in the stream, I lined up the rocks. The only decisions I really had to make is where to cut the top of the frame off, where to cut off both sides, and then the shutter speed for the blurry water. So, artistically, it really wasn't that satisfying for me to create. This is more of an image that I took instead of made. And don't get me wrong, I have a hard drive full of these and I absolutely love them. But for me, speaking about my inner artist and what gives me passion and how I grew my artistic vision, one of the ways was to start noticing different things in the world around me when I'm on location. And when I was here at this location, I looked down. I spent about half my time looking at the forest floor and taking various photographs just of smaller scenes on the forest floor. And here's one from this exact area that I want to show you. Now, these kinds of shots aren't for everybody, but the simplicity of this, it tells a wonderful scene. It says fall. Just like the previous shot says fall because of the yellow leaves, these yellow leaves also say fall. But they're organized in such a way that they're very pleasing geometrically. We love things in threes. And it's a contrast, it's a study in contrast between the yellow of the leaves and the color of the granite rock underneath. So a real simple shot just by looking down at the forest floor. Now the next example, we took everybody up to the bristlecone pine forest up in the White Mountains, and we were treated to some wonderful clouds in the sky. And this is one of my top favorite places to photograph because these trees can tell such an amazing story. And of course, the trees are the primary subject of why we're up there. So it's only logical that we would photograph the trees. Yep, makes sense. But again, artistically, there wasn't a lot for me to decide upon. How high up the slope, where to position the tree in the frame, how wide or how zoomed in do I want to be. It was just how well can I execute a photograph of this tree. That was kind of the artistic challenge for me. But when we're up here, then I started looking at the small details around me. You know, the shale rock that we have up in this area is just beautiful. And it's all these layers of thin rock that create these wonderful repeating patterns and geometric shapes. But the thing that really tickles me, the thing I love to do when we're up in this location, is look underneath the pine trees that still have green on them, and I can find a passel of pine cones in various states, shapes, configurations, and in particularly, I love it with these old pieces of wood because it really depicts a harsh environment. This wood is severely weathered because we're up almost at 11,000 feet, just nasty weather, and there's so much that's told in this very, very small scene. So I looked down and I still could tell a story about autumn in a pine forest, but in a much smaller way. And I really got to control, the angle of this large stick that was coming into where did it enter the frame? What angle does it pass through the frame? These two other sticks on the side, where are they in relation to the edge of the frame? Where to cut off the pine cones? There was a lot of decision making that went into a photograph such as this. As simple as it seems, sometimes these simple shots are far more difficult to execute than these types of shots. There's one good side to this tree, one good angle. You want to be looking up the slope. It's fairly easy to execute this shot. Things like this are a little bit more difficult to do them well. And here's another variation on that. Again, pine cones and this stick. Found a different thing. But this was all about me looking down, looking away from the main subject and looking at other items that are around me in this environment. After the pine forest, we took everybody up. We went up to Lee Vining and worked the area up there. And one of the stops we had was at Mono Lake. And of course, Mono Lake is famous for the tufa that rise up out of the water and along the bank of the shore. So we went there for 2 different sunrises, and it was a memorable experience. This is a shot from the second morning we were there. And the reason I liked this shot is that there's a little bit of cloud in the sky that's reflecting some color. There's a crescent moon in the sky, and then the tufa is rising over on the right. You know, technically and artistically, this was not a difficult shot to create. You know, it seems, I wouldn't say it's iconic, but it's obviously color is the star of the show. I had no control over that. I have no control over how fast or how slow the sun rises or the moon sets, you know, any of that stuff. So it was really about me just positioning the tufa stack on the right with enough space between the right hand edge and firing off a shot. You know, I wanted to get a long enough shutter speed so the water was fairly smooth. And it was a really simple to execute. You know, and during this time, I was helping some other folks capture the sunrise as well. And I had a brief moment to myself standing next to my camera. And I just stopped and reflected. I slowed down. I changed my vision to look away from the grand landscape and started thinking about the light that's reflecting off the water. Very interesting. And as I was sort of looking around and just reflecting on what an awesome morning it was, my eyes landed on a stick in the water near the shoreline or near the waterline. And here's the shot. This was absolutely one of my favorite shots from the morning. Why? Artistically, it was extremely satisfying. Of course, I didn't have control over the light or the color, but I had control over the height of my camera and my relation, the angle to these sticks. I had control over how much water to include, how much sand to include, where is the line that's dissecting the image or the frame, where are these sticks positioned in the frame. I shot them, you know, in the upper left, upper right, lower right, shot them in multiple different variations. And here's just one example of this, of the sequence of shots that I took. Shots like this, it's simple, it's strong, it showcases my vision and my artistic desires to create relatively simple but compelling photographs. And I saw this only by slowing down and only by looking down. All right, well, there you go. There's just a few examples of what I mean by looking down. You know, developing your own artistic vision, developing your own creative voice takes time. There is no formula for doing it. Each one of us responds differently to the environment around us. So I encourage you to really be open and pay attention to what you respond to, what gives you excitement, what catches your eye or catches your interest. Then try to find ways to photograph them in an expressive way that communicates what you're feeling. And trust me, I think people that see your photographs, if you can communicate what you're feeling, people will feel that too. So there you go. Thanks for watching. I hope you have a great day and stay tuned for more videos. All right, bye-bye.